Hey everyone, this is a quick tutorial to show you how to make a Super Saiyan-like power-up effect using Lens Studio. The first thing we're going to do is open up the segmentation sample project. This will be our base for creating a lot of the background particle effects. Before we jump into things, I wanted to quickly show how layering works with the cameras. So if you go to an object and then you see here there's layers, the orthographic mask layer is where our effects are kept. The first thing I'm going to do is add new particles, and this is going to create a particle object to create that Dragon Ball aura effect. And now that I've created that effect, I'm going to make sure it's under the effects in the orthographic camera. And I'm going to change the layer on it to the orthographic mask to make sure the effect lines up behind the person. Before doing anything else, I'm going to uncheck the background color and the image objects so those hearts don't appear in the preview anymore. Now I'm just going to move the particle around a bit so I could see the effect in the preview. And now I'm going to go to the material and find the particle emitter. To make things more clear, I'm going to put an image of the changes I'm going to make to the particle emitter on the screen. I'm also going to go through these in real time, but just in case it gets confusing, all the changes will be right here. And please feel free to pause and start, make sure you get all these changes. I just did it this way because I thought it's what worked the best, but there's definitely different ways you could change a particle to get the visualization that you think is best for you. But to give a more clear idea of what I did with this, I'm just taking the default particle emitter that comes in Lens Studio, and then I'm changing it so that it is a lot larger and semi-transparent, and then it has a flicker to it, and that's just to give that Dragon Ball effect that there's an aura around you that is glowing. If for some reason changing your blend mode added the hearts back into your preview window, go to the image and background color game objects and uncheck the image. This will remove it once again. And now you can see that the particle is behind our model in the preview window. And from here, I'm going to go into adding the Dragon Ball hair FBX model. For the model I'm using, I'm going to leave a link to download it in the description. So please just use that or any FBX model that you think would fit for the project you're working on. And I'm just going to drag and drop that model into Lens Studio, keep the default import options, press import, and then the model will appear in my resources. Now that I have the model in, I'm going to go to the camera and the effects and add a head binding. And this is going to be where the model is attached to the head. And now that I've created the head binding, I'm going to drag and drop our hair model on top of that. Now the hair model has its own hierarchy, so I'm just going to pull the ref wrap 279 out of it and delete the hair just so it's all in one spot. I'm also going to rename that to hair to make it less confusing. And the final thing I'm going to do is change the transform of the hair to get it to fit on top of the head. So just scale it up, move it a little bit up as well, and maybe even rotate it so it looks as best on your model or yourself as you can get, and then go from there. The next effect I'm going to add is the eye color. So add new eye color and just make sure that's on the camera with the effects. Now that I've added the eye color, I'm just going to adjust the values a little bit. Really don't need to change much. I'm going to leave the alpha at 50% and just adjust that color a little bit to try to get that blue-green Super Saiyan eye color. I think the default's pretty good, but if there's one you like better, definitely go with that. The final effect I'm going to use is a face liquefy. And the point of this is just to kind of make the eyes a little bigger, kind of match that Dragon Ball anime eye kind of format. And I'm just going to adjust that value to around zero point 0.7 on the radius and 1.20 for the intensity. And then I'm going to go to the other eye and put in the same values. You can make it bigger or smaller if you think it looks better or worse. but make sure that the attach point on both eyes are to the left and right eyes. So on the first eye, it's left by default, but on the second one, it's a custom point. You want to put that at right eye just so when Snapchat looks for points to apply this effect, it's actually on your eyes and not a random point on your face. And now we've created all the effects we're going to use, so the final step is to create a script that lets us trigger these effects. Before creating the script though, I'm going to create an empty object where we can put the script. So go to your objects, add new, empty, and I'm going to rename this to interaction manager. This is just so we could keep track of all our scripts. I'm also going to move the segmentation controller to this. And then the next thing I'm going to do is under resources, add new script. And I'm going to rename this to interaction manager. So now that I have this, I'm going to drag and drop it on the interaction manager object we created. And that's just to track where our script will be. So the first thing we're going to want to do now that we've attached our script is add 2 new inputs for our cameras. I'll go to our interaction manager script and double click it just so I can see our script in the editor. Back to the inputs, I'm going to want the orthographic camera mask because this is where our particle effect is. And then I'm going to want our regular camera, and this is where all of our other effects are. So we're going to want to toggle these cameras on and off to let the apps know when to use our effects. Now back at the interaction manager script, I'm going to press add input and then type in add input component camera and call it ortho camera. I'm going to do this one more time, but this time I'm going to name the camera effects camera, and these are our 2 camera references. The next thing I'm going to do is create an event that will turn off the camera on the start of the app, just to make sure the effects aren't running by default. To do so, I'm going to create a variable on start event and have a script event, create event, turn on event. We are then going to take our on start event and bind it to event data and take the effects camera.enabled and the ortho camera.enabled and set them both to false. Now that we have the effects off, I'm going to create an event to start the effects. For this example, I use the mouth opened event. After writing in the start effect event, I'm going to do start event.face index equals 0. And this is just to focus on the first face that's detected in the app. Like previously, I'm going to bind the start effect event to the event data. But this time, I'm going to set the effects camera.enabled and ortho camera.enabled values to true, so the effect turns on. In order to test the code we just wrote, we first have to hook up our variables to their actual objects. So click on the interaction manager and then drag and drop the orthographic camera on our ortho camera variable and drag and drop the camera on our effects camera variable. Now that we've created a way of starting the effect, we also need a way to end the effect. For this, I'm going to create a variable called endEffectsEvent and have it equal the delayed callback event. I'm then going to bind this effect to the event data, and like previously, I'm going to take the ortho camera.enabled and the effects camera.enabled and set them back to false. Because this effect uses a delayed callback event, I'm going to go back up into our start effect event, and I'm going to add one line of code called endEffectsEvent.reset and put the value of 10 in it. This is so that after 10 seconds, this event is called, which stops our effect. And that's all we'll need to complete this tutorial. Make sure to hit Ctrl S to save your work. This tutorial is to get you started on this project, but it's not its final form. You could definitely add in a few audio effects, and I even added in the ability to power up even more, which I'll show you at the end of this video. Though the Lens Studio model is a lot prettier than me, I think the best way of testing this is to use your own computer's camera. So I'm going to click this button right here. My camera is going to turn on. And when I open my mouth, the effect plays as we expect. You could look around. I could probably move the hair model a little bit back so my ears are showing, but those tweaks are up to you. And now you can go Super Saiyan with the best of them. I would still recommend testing your effect with the Lens Studio models. It's a quick way of testing how the effect looks with different types of people. To test this, click the drop-down menu, and in our example, look for the open mouth videos. This will allow you to cycle through different models and see how the effect looks on them. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to stick around, here's some examples of how you can take the app even further and use it in apps like TikTok.
Call me Goku! Yeah! This liquor got the best of me! Yeah! This liquor